Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
Spend a little time with a child and you are going to get asked a question or two or 5 million. Like, why is the sky blue? Why do I have to eat my peas? Why do I have to go to bed? Right? Well, you and I are God's kids and we have questions too, don't we? Small ones, medium ones, and yep, the big ones. Welcome to the Bible for Busy People. I'm Erica, your host. Our family moved just a few days ago, and I had a question. This is one of the smaller ones. Why did we not know that my husband's driver's license expired? And so he couldn't drive the U-Haul. Why did we have to rent it in my name? I stood there in that little office, terrified on the inside, but on the outside, I was going, honey, no prob, I got this. Well, it turns out coming out of your comfort zone can be fun. I had a blast driving that U-Haul, and I never would have known it had Will's driver's license not expired. So I do believe with all my heart that the promise in Romans 8:28 is true. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Whether it's something small, like the U-Haul story, or whether it's something big, like why did my uncle die at the age of 62 in a motorcycle accident? I have looked up with tear-stained eyes and asked God that question. And yet, I continue to trust that Romans 8:28 is true. My uncle had a leather bracelet with the words Romans 8:28, and I'm sure he wore it as a reminder. My son, his great nephew, now wears it to remember as he works at the grocery store. I know you've looked up with tears in your eyes and asked God questions too. But this week, we are going to study some of the biggest questions in the Bible and perhaps draw closer to the one who is the answer. I don't have any answers for you, but Jesus does. He is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the map to where we want to go, which is peace of mind, isn't it? Which is eternal life with him in heaven. Okay, let's dive into the first big question of the week. I love this one. I think it's the most profound question ever asked in human history. Are you ready? Join me now in Luke chapter 24, beginning in verse 1. At the crack of dawn on Sunday, the women came to the tomb carrying the burial spices they had prepared. They found the entrance stone rolled back from the tomb, so they walked in. But once inside, they couldn't find the body of the Master Jesus. They were puzzled, wondering what to make of this. Then, out of nowhere, it seemed, two men, light cascading over them, stood there. The women were awestruck and bowed down in worship. The men said, here's the question. Why are you looking for the living one in a cemetery? He is not here, but raised up. Remember how he told you when you were still back in Galilee that he had to be handed over to sinners, be killed on a cross, and in 3 days rise up. Then they remembered Jesus' words. Okay. You and I just read the Message version, and I realize now why I feel like God was leading me there. Because in other translations, it says, why do you look for the living among the dead? But in this translation, you and I just read, why are you looking for the living one in a cemetery? So I want to ask you today, and I'm asking myself right now, where are we searching for Jesus where he's not? Because I think so often we reach back to the past and we look for answers. Why did this person hurt me? I have a story like that. Why did this horrible tragedy happen? And it seems like the person, the guilty one, got away, but I'm left to mop up the mess. Do you have a story like that in your life too? And we dig in the cemetery of those things for answers, for peace. We're never going to find peace in those situations. Instead, I think what the Lord wants us to do is look for him in a different place, like you're doing now. You are digging in his word, seeking him, looking for him, remembering that he rose from the dead. He is the God who walked through the valley of the shadow of death and came back. You are going to find Jesus every single time you open his word. So congratulations, you're digging in the right place today. My friend Mary Lou told me an incredible story about a woman whose family was murdered. And God gave her a new question to ask to replace why. And it was, what for? God, what is this for? This has happened. I can do nothing about it. What is this for? And see, you're seeking him for wisdom. Do you feel the difference even when you hear the words? I want to make sure before we wrap up today that I let you know God is okay with your whys. He is compassionate enough to understand why we ask that question. But when you and I say, Lord, what for? Then we begin to trust him. It's like putting your hand in his and saying, I trust you, Lord. Show me what to do next. And you're looking forward instead of backward. Don't look for the living among the dead. God is alive and he is working in your life. Until next time, you are really loved. Thank you for making time for the Bible for Busy People today. If being part of this community is a blessing to you, it's super easy to share this podcast with someone you love. We're all about spreading the hope of Jesus like butter. So if you've got a moment to write a review, boy, we'd really appreciate that. Maybe you need a little prayer today, or you're ready to take that next step with God. I invite you to check out our show notes. You're going to find lots of encouragement there. This podcast is one branch on a tree called Purposely, a podcast network designed with practical podcasts to help you find and thrive in God's purpose for your life. If you've got a pulse, you've got a purpose.